Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Maverick Mindset Radio Show. I am Adam Williams.
And I'm Ashley Muckenhop.
And this is the radio show for the dreamers and doers. It's for those who are willing to step into the arena.
Some call us the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers.
We don't accept the status quo. We leave the world better than we find it.
We approach each day with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind. We maintain a rational optimism about the future.
This is the Maverick Mindset Radio Show, brought to you by me, Adam Williams. Show 57. I say this every week. I'm excited about this show.
Yeah, I was. It was last week. I got excited about it, thinking it was.
Yeah, we got
our
topics. We got our topics mixed up. But
so we're ready.
It's good to be back. And actually, I was in the studio yesterday on the Joel and Natalie show, which was a lot of fun.
I heard it went really well.
It was great, and I actually really enjoy being a guest because it's so much less work. Yeah. I don't know how Joel does that for hours and hours and hours a week, but really excited about today's show. I'm introducing the topic. Yeah, so show 57, Delegation Without Disaster, How to Actually Let Go.
That's a hard thing for people.
I feel like sometimes we do shows and it's often on the thing that I need to improve the most.
I swear I'm not thinking those.
Yeah, I am personally targeted by this one. So we'll be sharing.
But I think it's a lot of people, because it's a total mindset thing. That's it.
Actually, yeah. I think you're right. Probably the biggest hurdle to business owners, or really anybody being able to delegate things, is the mindset around it. So yeah, I think that's really good. All right, so before we dive into everything today, as we are every Wednesday, blowing your minds every Wednesday at 9, going live at 9:05, Maverick Mindset Radio on Facebook. You can check us out on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts, and then of course MaverickMindsetRadio.com, where we've got all sorts of really great Maverick merch, which you can use the code Maverick10 for 10% off. And don't forget, just like every other week, we are here dropping value bombs. We are here changing lives, teaching you things that you didn't know about, teaching you new ways to think about things. And if you like what you hear, if we make you laugh, if we make you cry, if we make you think differently about things, share the show. Share the show. That's all we ask. So if you're watching live on Facebook, hit that share button. If you go back and listen to the recordings on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, share the show. Give us a rating. Subscribe. Do all of those things. And that way we don't have to be like every other YouTuber and podcaster out there that starts every show with, "Hey guys."
Ooh, and give us some topics that you want to hear about.
I have been getting a lot of messages recently, and I think that would be fun if there is something. If we should maybe do like a Q&A show, like have people send in questions in advance. I think that would be fun. And I have gotten some pretty good suggestions on other topics as well. So
let's let everyone know too. So we're little summer break here from this show until the next one, and then like super excited about we're coming back with an awesome guest.
Yeah, so I'm taking a couple weeks off.
Yes.
I mean, I'm going to be out of town, and I just don't want to do the show remote because it's not as much fun. We're going to be traveling, and I think I'm worried about internet access while I'm gone.
Yeah.
So, we're taking a couple weeks off, and then we're back beginning of July.
Yeah, that first week. So we'll be back for that July 9th show. That'll air.
And of course, keep an eye on our Facebook page for updates on that. But yeah, we have David Nagel joining the show.
I cannot wait. I got to tone down my fangirl. Yeah, my fangirl.
Yeah, in our first 57 episodes, I think we've mentioned David in some way or another 54 of those episodes.
Yeah.
So he's finally coming on. We're really excited about that, and we're gonna do a really great job with that show. But before that, let's do today's show.
Yep.
What do you think about that?
Delegation.
Good. I've decided that I'm going to delegate the entire show to you today.
I should have thought you might do that.
That would be a good test.
It's all right. I have a lot to say.
Do you?
I do, because I think this is a really important topic, and not just for business owners, but the team too. I think that's what really started making me think about it. But also, and how I sit there. Well, we'll get into it. Let's start with the quote.
Go for it.
Gotcha. Okay. So the quote of the day is, "Your business will only grow as far as your ability to let it go." And I chose this quote because as a business owner, you have to build a team that will carry the vision that you have, so that you're not carrying and doing all the work. You have to delegate those important things to them to help see everything to the finish line.
Yeah. I have two thoughts on that. The first one, the quote talks about your ability to let go, and I think I think that may be slightly the wrong perspective on it, because all too often, one of the reasons that delegation fails is because business owners or managers or whoever, they abdicate instead of delegating.
What's abdicate?
Well, they give up control, basically. And they say, here, you just handle this. I got to go worry about something else. Oh. And then they come back some period of time later and the thing didn't go well, or it didn't get done. So that they take their eye off the prize, and they just sort of dump it on someone as opposed to actually delegating it to them. So I think that's part one. I think part two of this is there are, for good reasons and bad reasons, a lot of business owners out there who don't think they should be interested in delegating because they don't want to grow a team, which is okay in some circumstances. I have some friends that run some smaller businesses with smaller teams, maybe one or two employees that are very profitable.
Yeah.
And that's okay for them. That's what they're looking for. But then there's the group of us who we want to amplify and multiply our impact, and the only way to do that is by having a team. But even if you have one of those smaller businesses, if you're just starting out, or you're a solopreneur, or you've got a smaller business, you have to understand that there are still things that you delegate in your business, whether you have full-time employees or not. Because in some way, shape, or form, at some point, you ask someone to do something for you in your business. And that, if not done properly, is abdicating. And if it is done properly, you are actually delegating. So it isn't always about being that leader and that manager and growing the big team and having everybody there, rah-rah 24/7. Sometimes it's just, hey, I've got to get a project done, and I'm gonna hire you to help me with that. It could be something as simple as graphic design, or doing some social media, or having a video recorded, or whatever. I mean, there's countless examples there. So I think it's important to understand that this isn't just about hiring employees and growing a team. There are other ways to delegate, and I think, like I said, that other part is, it's not just about letting go. It's about strategically and intentionally getting really clear about intent and expectations and having someone do something for you. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah. I want to talk about two things. Well, so let's talk
right now.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
So let's start because we keep you have mentioned what delegation and was it abdicating?
Abdication.
Abdication, right. So I'm thinking with delegation that people fail for two reasons for delegation. And I think one is, and what you've talked about a little bit, they don't know how to delegate the right way. And I think the other one is there's fear behind delegation.
Yes.
There's fear of letting go of something that is yours or your responsibility for a couple reasons. One, it's not going to get done right.
Yep.
Two, I think it's a personal thing. There's some personal emotional connection behind it of you're thinking that what someone else is going to think about you if you're handing something off to someone else. And I think this impacts employees more than leaders, where they don't want to give something up that they're doing that they suck at because they don't want somebody to think they don't know how to do their job, or if I'm letting this go, I'm not doing enough, where honestly, you're holding on to it and you're not doing a great job at it. So you're holding the team back.
That's an interesting perspective that I hadn't thought about. And maybe there was a time in my life where I would have approached it that way, that I don't want to hand something off that I'm not good at because of what other people are going to think about me. Mm-hmm. I have the exact opposite approach. I have to get rid of those things that I'm not good at because I'm not good at them, or I don't enjoy doing them. So that's really interesting. I would have thought, there's that fear of the thing not getting done right. But then I think the other part that you mentioned, that personal and emotional part of it, I actually thought you were going to talk about trust, of like, I don't know if you're going to do this right. Yeah. And I've got to put my trust in you. Like if I'm going to hand you a project that is important to my business, I'm handing you the keys, right? This is my income. This is my livelihood, and I'm trusting you to go and do it. And I think that there can be a lot of fear that's created around that as well. And the interesting part about that is both of that fear only gets worse the first time you delegate, because you don't know how to do it properly, and the project is handed back to you as if some caffeinated raccoon went and tackled this thing for you.
I think you have said before, it's like handing the keys to your Ferrari to toddlers. It's not.
I didn't say that before. I said that once to one particular vendor that wasn't doing a good job. That I handed.
You delegated something
like,
too.
Yeah, I felt like I handed the keys of a Ferrari to a toddler. Yeah.
Yeah.
We no longer work with that vendor. That speech wasn't as motivating as I expected it.
You've had some other good ones that I can't say on air, but that were really motivating.
Yeah, sometimes it really works. You know, I actually wanted to tell this story because it I can't stop thinking about this, and I talked about it on Joel's show yesterday. So Royce and I went to the NASCAR race in Michigan on Sunday.
Yes.
And through like the craziest set of circumstances, we ended up sitting in the pit box of one of the teams.
That's insane.
It kind of is, right? But that's just how my life goes. Sometimes. Yeah. You got to put yourself in the right situations. So the way that it works is if you've ever been to an empty racetrack, there's the straightaway, and then there's a pit lane there, and there's this tiny little wall. And for when I go racing in my car, I just throw like a toolbox and some rags there. But big, legitimate racing teams, they wheel in these carts that they unfold, that there's seating on top, and the whole team hangs around the thing, and all the tools are in there. And
this is the area that we see when people are changing the tires in the car.
So 10 feet from us is where the car would come in, and they do the pit stop. So we got up in this pit box, and there's 4 chairs occupied by 3 people. It was the crew chief and 2 other engineers. The next row back is the owner of the racing team, his brother, and their pilot, which was cool. And then the second row is me and Royce and the guy and his son that we're there with, right? Nice. Completely nuts. And in this pit box, like it is high energy. There was a flyover, like it's just so cool, right? And the cars are so loud. And
I say that has to be loud.
I actually wore earplugs, which is not something I typically do. I want the full 5 sensory experience, but it is so loud and so intense. And it was really interesting because we were sitting in the pit box, and the crew chief is sitting there with these 2 other guys, and they had 9 computer monitors in front of them. Wow. 2 of them are streaming the race. Most of them are filled with these giant spreadsheets with all sorts of data. And then they had these really interesting like simulator things where you could compare the current lap with the fastest lap and where the driver was braking and accelerating and turning in.
Because they're talking to the driver, right?
Yeah, it's constant communication. Yeah. But the driver's in the car doing 200 miles an hour. He's not worried about his tire pressure. True. He's worried about not crashing, right? Or he's worried about making the next pass, depending on whether you focus on threats or opportunities. And it was so interesting because there was so much data on these screens. I was like obsessed. I was staring at these screens, just watching how frequently this stuff updated, because it was a really good lesson. That crew chief is managing that team, right? Mm-hmm. He is the chief engineer. So he's got to worry about the car and the driver and the pit crew. Yeah. And to some extent, his boss sitting right behind him, and the sponsors. The car was sponsored by Long John Silver's, and the big shots from Long John Silver's were sitting on the ground behind us. They weren't up in the pit box. This is so cool. Anyway, so they got all this data coming in, and every pit stop, the car pulls in and they swap out the tires and they add fuel and adjust the suspension and whatever they do. And you would watch, they would take the old tires back around the back of the pit box. They'd scrape off the excess rubber, and then they use this cool tool called a durometer to measure the hardness of the tire. And basically what it would do is it would show how much the tire got worn down when they were out driving.
I see.
So you peel off a strip of rubber across the tire. They would take the hardness measurement at 5 different spots on there on all 4 tires. They'd fill out a little card after every single pit stop. And then someone would walk that card up into the pit box and hand it to the crew chief, and he would look at that data. So he's got the live stuff coming in from the computers, and then there's up to the minute after the tire change with that information.
Way more than I thought went on.
Well, yeah, NASCAR is go fast, turn left, right? So it was so wild to see this, but again, I'm looking at it from the business and management perspective. Mm-hmm. So he's got all this data coming at him. And they came in during one pit stop and dropped the ball. Something happened and it took longer than it should have, and they came out of the pits farther behind than when they came into the pits. And so the crew chief jumps up out of his seat, runs down the ladder, and is screaming at these guys.
Oh, gosh.
Right? Interesting management technique.
Yeah.
Like, typically when your team screws up, you want to build them up, and when they're doing well, you want to break them down. It's reverse psychology, right? So he's screaming at these guys, and he's like, we practice this every single week, and you don't want me micromanaging, but if you're going to pull stuff like that, I'm going to come down here and micromanage you. You guys are better than this, blah, blah, blah. So he climbs back up in the pit box, and I'm like, all right, so he's got all the data. They have the stopwatch. They know how long that pit stop took. They actually would watch the film of the pit stop down. They had more monitors down below, and the guys would watch the pit stop to see how did it go. Because you've seen me share pit stop videos in our business, because I think it's like that. It's such an interesting choreography of efficiency and speed. Next pit stop, driver comes in, they run the pit stop, and they crush it. Okay. And he leaves the pits in first place. He's leading the race. It was so wild to see this. And all I can think about is that crew chief, he's not driving the car. He's not replacing the tires. He's not refueling it. He's not adjusting the suspension. He's looking at the data, and he's making the decisions on what the rest of the team needs to do. And then they need to go do it and execute. Yeah. The guy is pure delegation during the race. I don't know what it's like back in the garage and when they're doing other planning and stuff like that. But during that race, he doesn't pick up a tool. He doesn't touch his steering wheel. Yeah. He's there looking at the data and making the decisions and making sure that these guys have metrics that they have to hit, just like any business owner. You have to do things at a certain speed. You have to get your pit stop done in a certain amount of time. But 7 screens full of data and spreadsheets, plus 2 screens with the live stream. So much data is coming at these guys, and all I could think about was KPIs. And key performance indicators, right? How is this team's success measured, and how are the individual contributors, how is their success measured? Yeah. So you've got a tire guy that needs to get that tire off and the new one on real quick, and then he's got to run around the other side of the car and do the other one. Right? Yeah. And then there's one guy at the back of the car, one guy at the front of the car. They have the guys refueling the cars. These dudes were huge. They're like former football players. So they've all got they've all got to execute and do it at the right speed. And then I started thinking about, well, what is, like, a good manager will break it down so that an employee really only has maybe one number that they have to worry about, right? Could be 3, could be 5, but honestly, the fewer the better. Like so one way to delegate well is to make it really clear what success looks like, and you can know whether you're succeeding or not. Yeah. So one of our employees asked me yesterday, hey, what's the conversion rate from this stage of the process to that stage of the process? Like, what should that be? Because I'm trying to benchmark it. And it's like, wow, that's like a really good question to ask. And in fact, I know the answer to that, and I feel bad for not sharing it with you. So what do you think that team, the driver, the pit crew, the crew chief, the car, all the preparation that they do, what do you think is the one metric that matters to all of them?
The time. The speed.
Close. Close. Their finishing position.
Okay.
That's it. Okay. That's the one number. So you've got screens and screens and screens of data updated throughout the race, and it really comes down to one thing. What place did you finish? Yeah. It was so interesting to me. I got so much out of that, and I thought it was really cool because I was thinking about, I'm sure there was a period of time, and in fact, this happens when I go racing. I'm all of those people. I'm the crew chief. I'm the owner. I'm the driver. I'm the guy changing the tires and refueling. Like, these pit stops are so much faster because the team knows what's expected of them. They train and they practice on it, and then they go and do it. Yeah. And then if they screw it up, the leader has to redirect a little bit. So I think I was thinking a lot about delegation during that NASCAR race, which is such a weird thing to do. But I think that story and that lesson kind of kills a lot of the common myths about delegation. A lot of us think, well, it'll just be faster if I do it myself. Yeah. Not in that example, right? Right. And maybe there are things that you can do faster, but the question really is, can you do it better, and is it worth your time? So just because I can do something faster than you doesn't mean I should be doing it. It's really a question of, if I'm choosing to do that thing instead of delegating it, what higher value activities am I actually not getting done?
What are you missing over here?
Yeah, that's question number one is, go ahead.
So it's saying it's not that you're giving away control, you're building capacity for yourself over here to
Yeah.
take care of things that are much bigger to help the business grow.
Yeah. So the control thing is a lot of people really get hung up on because I can do it faster if I do it myself. Maybe I can do it better. No one cares as much as I do, or I don't, the person that I'm going to delegate to may only be able to do it at 80% of what I'm capable of. So I'm just going to do it myself. And entrepreneurs think that that's about control. But it turns out that if you delegate properly, you still have power and you still have control. And in fact, you're multiplying those things. You're telling me that crew chief didn't have control over that pit stop?
Oh yeah.
Well, just because he's not the one holding the fuel tank and refueling the car doesn't mean he's not in control of it. He's got a team there that supports him. I wrote about this in my book that, like, when I go flying, just because my hands aren't literally on the controls and my feet aren't on the rudders doesn't mean I'm not in control, because there's another pilot there and I say, hey, let's turn right.
Yeah.
And then he turns right. Well, my hands don't need to be on the controls,
Right.
but I'm still in control.
Right.
I've had another mentor that used an analogy of a boat. I can be sitting in a canoe or a kayak paddling and I'm in control. I can also be on a 100-foot yacht with a full captain and crew and tell them what to do and tell them where we want to go. And if I want to go faster, they go faster. And if I want to go slower, they go slower. I'm still in control. And in fact, that bigger boat is going to be a lot safer and a lot sturdier and a lot more stable in uncertain seas.
Yeah.
That's actually a pretty good analogy. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know, that trip to me, the experience of witnessing that firsthand, like, you can see it on TV and you can watch videos about it, but actually being there live,
yeah.
it was so interesting.
I was gonna say, I didn't know there was that much.
I didn't either. I really had no idea how much time. I thought these guys would that when the driver goes out and he's doing 40 laps at a time between pit stops, I assume these guys just sort of sit back and relax. No, they're staring at that screen. They're watching all the data. They're constantly adjusting and improving. And there's another business lesson there, but I'll save that for another day. So, do you want to talk a little bit about kind of some rules for delegation and how to do it well?
Yes.
Okay. So let's start. I think I have 5 rules here.
Okay.
It may be more, it may be less. We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see how far off I get on some tangents here. So we're streaming live right now. Talk Erie, downtown Erie, Maverick Mindset Radio. We're talking about delegation without disaster on Maverick Mindset Radio. 5 rules for delegating.
All right.
Number 1, clarity is king.
I agree.
This is where it gets screwed up so frequently, and this is where a lot of business owners abdicate, is you need to define success with ruthless precision. Here is exactly what I want out of this. Now, this isn't micromanaging, right? You as the person to whom things are delegated, you may be able to determine the path to get to a certain destination, but I am determining the destination. I am determining the outcome that I want.
Yes.
So I'm going to give you my SOPs, my standard operating procedures. I'm going to maybe give you some videos that I've recorded on how we've done this in the past, or I'm going to give you some checklists or samples or examples or templates. But I need to be extremely clear on what the outcome is supposed to be. If you worked at a coffee shop, they're not going to tell you to go in and make coffee. Have you ever pay attention to this at Starbucks when you go in and order something? Like, if you order an iced drink.
Yes.
Have you ever noticed the lines on the side of the cup?
I did not.
So pay attention next time. Everybody listening, next time you go to Starbucks and you order a drink, pay attention to how they make that drink. There are lines on the side of the cup that show them, here's how much ice you put in, here's how much liquid you put in, and it puts the ratios right on the side of the cup. So it's really clear how you go about making a simple cup of coffee. Or maybe if you're one of those people where your order is super complex, they still follow those ratios.
Yeah.
And if you want less ice, you ask for less ice, and if you want more ice, you ask for more ice. But the standard is the standard. They show right on the side of that cup how to make their drinks, their different drinks, and what the different ratios are. So it's abundantly clear what success looks like when someone orders whatever iced drink it is, because they make it kind of idiot proof.
Yeah.
Except
they give you the line.
Except for when I order. Yeah. So rule number 1, clarity is king.
You probably mess it.
Yeah.
I'd actually like more ice, and I'd like.
Nah, I'm not. I just want the coffee. I just want the. In fact, if I could skip the whole coffee part and just go straight to the caffeine, that would be good for me. All right, rule number 2: assign ownership, not just tasks.
I was like, it's such my pet peeve.
What?
Because you do this. You will say someone. Can someone do this? Well, when you say, can someone do this? Anyone that it could possibly fall on is sitting there being like, not me. And that's, and I know this because there's times I have been, not me. So you have to be very clear of exactly who you intend. And I know sometimes when it's a group thing, it's like, well, I don't know who the best one is to do it. So for me, that's why it's like, if you say, Ashley, do this, I'm going, and it's not something that I can do or that I would normally do. I'm going to say, I'm not the best person, but you know who is? Chrissy, because Chrissy does this all the time, which you may not know, but it has to be a person.
So that's related to this rule.
Yeah.
That assigning ownership of it has to be abundantly clear who is going to do the thing. And I do have a fault with, if I'm sitting in a meeting with 3 people, I just say, for the love of God, someone please do this.
Yes.
Right. And
Who?
all too often I don't get the multiple volunteers jumping up for that opportunity. So yeah, who is very important, but also, well, you know, we end every meeting with this: who does what by when.
Yes.
So
I was just repeating that in my head.
Yeah, exactly. So the point is, whoever you're asking to do the thing needs to own that outcome. Yeah. It's not a to-do list. It's not the step-by-step. It's the outcome that I'm assigning you the responsibility, the ownership of this outcome. Because I can't be here. I don't want to be here every step of the way showing you how to do it. So one of the things that we do, and any candidates that are listening to this, because we do have a lot of potential employees listen to the radio show, which is interesting that they're still interested in working for us after this.
I like it. I think it's a lot of what we talk about on the show are things that are being implemented. It's been good for recruiting for sure. So we do a written interview for most positions in our business. And one of the questions says, go and find a message to Garcia and explain to us why we're asking you to read that story. Yes.
And the whole idea with the message to Garcia, it's funny, I haven't read it in a while, but the whole idea is there's like a military general that gets one of his subordinates and says, I need you to deliver this message to Garcia. And what does the subordinate do? He takes the message and he finds, first of all, who the heck Garcia even is, and where he is, and delivers the message to him. So it's not a question of, oh, well, you know, that's going to interfere with my break, or I don't know how to do this, or why am I delivering this message? No, go and deliver the message to Garcia. You own that outcome. You have to go. I'm entrusting you to go and do this because it's necessary for the success of this business. So I'm not going to tell you, did the guy take a plane? Did he take a car? Did he ride a horse? Did he walk? I don't know.
Yeah.
But that message got delivered to Garcia, and that's the outcome, the desired outcome is clear, but you're not micromanaging and telling the person exactly how to go and do that thing.
Yeah.
Now, rule number 3 is sort of related to that, is you want to establish checkpoints, not just micromanage. Okay. So there's a difference there. If your goal is to travel 100 yards, I'm probably going to check in around the 20-yard line and see how that's going, right? I'm not going to tell you exactly how to go the next 10 yards or 15 yards or 20 yards or how to get there. So I want to predetermine those review points so that I can check in. So I'm gonna check in with you after the first draft is completed. I'm not gonna check in with you every single hour to see how it's going. And we have a lot of, I think a lot of business, this comes down to trust. A lot of business owners, a lot of managers aren't trusting enough to step away long enough to allow the person to actually do the job.
Yeah.
So a lot of people that I've been talking to recently are like, yeah, you know, my boss wants an update every 30 minutes. And it's like, well, my time would be spent actually getting the job done than sending you the information and the updates when nothing's happened because I just finished my last update to you. So establishing those checkpoints in advance, I think, is really key. We've done this a couple times recently where we've established these 30-day sprints of here's what we want to get done in 30 days, and we're going to check in 2 weeks and see how that's going because we may need to adjust course.
We're checking in today.
We often need to adjust course. Yeah. Are we at day 30 on those projects?
Friday is day 30.
Okay, so we got. Let's end the show early and get back to work because I'm sure we're behind pace on a lot of that stuff. Yeah, so establishing those checkpoints is better than micromanaging. So if we have a big project that needs to be completed, I don't want to wait until you've gone and finished the whole project to check in, because maybe you got it wrong, or maybe you're getting stuck with something, or maybe you're just headed in the wrong direction with it, and I want to be able to redirect.
Well, and
why are you pointing at me?
Because you brought up a good point. So, because here's why that's needed. Because on the employee end of things, we're sitting over here. I guarantee you, at some point, if you're not checking, we are wondering if we are on track, if we are doing it correct. We do have questions that for some reason we don't ask.
Yes.
And I don't know why, but they don't get asked.
I'll tell you why.
I'll tell you why.
So if I give you a project that's got several steps or several phases to it, and you get stuck on phase 1 or phase 2, you don't come and ask me about it because you don't want to look like an idiot, even though I'm begging you to come and ask me for it.
Yes.
So instead, what do most people do in that situation?
It stalls.
It stops. Yeah, the project stops and they go and work on something else every single time.
Yep.
And that's out of fear, right?
Yeah.
Well, I could push this forward, but what if I'm doing it the wrong way? I'm just going to stop instead. And it may not even be that conscious. It could be, well, I don't know what to do next, so I'm just going to go check my emails for the next 9 hours.
Yeah, I'll come back to it and see if the answer miraculously settles in.
Which sometimes it does, but you need to give yourself some space to actually
think there's because we have one of our core values is figure it out. But I think people get that wrong. I think people, there are some people that don't realize, yes, figure it out. Figure it out. Try every avenue before you are going to ask for help, so that you have taken the time to try and find that answer. And if you still can't figure it out, don't keep sitting there wasting more and more time, or let it go, because now that puts the whole team now we're all behind, right? It's at that point you can then go and say, I have tried to do this. I have tried A, B, C, and D, and I'm still not getting it. I now need your help. That's part of figuring it out too.
So let me add a little bit of flavor to that.
Yeah.
I would rather have you come to me with questions early in the project. Mm-hmm. Because if we're aiming for California and you're headed towards Florida, we need to know early on, right? Mm-hmm. So I would rather have you come. Rather than stumbling through it early on, I'd rather have you get clear on the overall direction. So come to your boss, the person delegating you the project earlier, because if there's something that you're confused about early on, and you're heading in the wrong direction, or you're losing momentum, that's gonna kill the project.
Yes.
Versus if you're 70% of the way into this thing and you've built momentum and you've got knowledge around the project, you can try more things on your own before you come to me. Mm-hmm. So one of my great frustrations has been when we have a meeting and I'm trying to follow these rules. I'm following these rules. And I'm giving really clear instructions, and I'm telling you exactly what I want the outcome to be, and I'm giving you examples and samples of what I want it to look like. And rather than making sure that you're really, really clear on it at that moment, what's been happening a lot in our business is people say, well, if I have questions, I'll just go back and listen to this recording.
Yeah.
No, let's knock this out right now. I got 10 more minutes. Like, let's get really clear on this to keep the momentum going and to make sure that we're heading in the right direction. So that is one area where I really think technology is killing people's ability to work properly, is because they become so reliant on it, rather than sitting there and making sure, like, don't show up to the meeting with your laptop and Zoom and record it and get the transcript. Show up to the meeting with a pen and paper and take notes, because that's how we're going to make sure that you're really clear on this. And sometimes I'm moving so fast that I don't slow down enough to make sure that you're clear on what I want. And then, in the back of your mind, well, I can always go back and listen to that recording.
Well, and sometimes too, my perception of what you're saying is different than maybe what you're intending to be saying. So if you're going to rely back on that recording, you're still only relying on your perception of what you're hearing, instead of asking the questions to check in. This is what I'm hearing you say. Yep. Is this what you're looking for from me?
So I try to do that. And that's a really interesting point, because if I've asked you 100 times, okay, repeat back to me what I just said. Mm-hmm. How many times out of 100 do you think you get that right?
Not very many.
It's probably less than half, right? Yes. I mean, that's just the nature of communications, that I think I'm being really clear, or I think that you should be able to read my mind, which is another huge problem with bosses. I think I'm being really clear, and then I say, well, can you repeat back to me what I just said, or Can you, are you clear on tell me your understanding of what the expectations are.
Yeah.
And then you completely miss it. It's like, oof, we should have scheduled more time for this meeting because now I got to go back and try this again. So that comes back to that clarity and that ruthless precision in what success looks like. Okay. Rule number 4, match tasks to strengths.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. And frankly, the growth goals of the business and of the employee. Mm-hmm. So I want to delegate based on talent and trajectory, right? If you've been in, I don't even know, 3 or 4 different jobs in our business. Mm-hmm. So your trajectory changes, and your skill set, you've got your base skill set and then there's new things that you're learning. And I want to make sure that what I'm asking you to do is aligned with that. We've struggled with this recently because I'm asking you to do a lot of stuff related to numbers and it takes you a while.
It's painful.
I'm not going to say that you can't do it. I can't do it. I'm not good with numbers. It's not that you can't do it. It's just it takes a lot of bending and stretching for you to figure that stuff out. So I would rather. It's really clear to me that you're not excited about growing into someone who's good with numbers. Now I need to change that.
I know.
And I'm working on it, but it's a slow process. But really, I want to make sure that whoever I'm asking to do the thing has strengths that align with that thing.
But you know what's happened because of that. Like I still know there are results that are needed. So there are things that I have teammates in this part that we have to deal with numbers that I know have more strengths in that area than I do. So leaning on them and saying to them, I can't do this, or I don't know how to find this.
Please don't say that.
I know. In my mind, I'm saying I can't do this because that's how I feel. But I know if they can, it's working with them and understanding, can you find me this? Because then I know how to make sense of that.
Yeah.
And that's hard for me to do because for me, it feels like failing when I'm letting something like that go and not figuring it out myself. But there is such a delay of like, but I've got
you own
20
the outcome,
other
though.
things.
Again, you own the outcome.
Right.
I would rather have the thing done
Right.
than make sure that you're the person that does it in every
Do you
situation.
remember the movie Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead?
Oh,
I'm taking it there
all
because
right, deep cut. Let's hear it.
all right. She gets hired. She fills out a fake resume.
The babysitter?
The babysitter.
Okay.
And she gets hired. It's where the classic line comes from, right on top of that, Rose. Remember?
I hate that line.
I know. But anyway, so she gets hired at this huge company based on a fake resume because she needs a summer job because the babysitter's dead. So she knows how to do nothing of what is on this resume. And she's in there and they're handing her these reports that she has to do. They're super, it's a lot of them. She has no idea what she's doing. But you know who does know how to do it? The secretary. The secretary has been doing it all the time and she figures this out. So she could waste her time, not get it done, and have to report to Rose that it's not done. Or she realizes, I'm going to give this to the secretary who gets it done in perfect fashion, hands it to her, she hands it to Rose, and they keep on going. And everything's done. The outcome is what her boss needed. She doesn't know how she got there, but she realized she utilized somebody that had this skill that she did not have.
Did she ever get found out for lying
She
on her
did.
resume? Okay, good.
She did get
All right, so that's a happy ending for me because
she
I
learned,
hate the premise of that.
I know.
But the lesson, that resonates.
Yeah.
Okay, so matching tasks to strengths. This is what I talk about all the time. Of hire experts, and I think in business we get so desperate for the help that it's like, oh, you've got a heartbeat. Come on board, help me out with this, right? And not worried about whether they have experience or expertise or knowledge or the ability to learn new things quickly. It's just, oh, you're here and you can help me so that I can get back to the other stuff that I want to do. I'm going to dump this on you. So matching tasks to strengths. If it's an employee, yes, of course. But if it's a vendor or a contractor, you want to make sure that they've got experience or relevant experience for what you're actually trying to get done or what you're trying to accomplish. We've seen this with a lot of marketing vendors that we think we're pretty clear on here's what we want this to look like and here's what we want you to do. And then they get in and it's like, well, I don't know how to do this. Well, why did you take my money? So
why did you say you did?
Hiring experts. Yeah. And making sure that they're actually experts. All right. Rule number 5, debrief and debrief again. This is the after action report. This is where the data and the numbers come in, right? So after that NASCAR race, that team is going to go, they're headed to Mexico City because that's where the race is. But that team is going to go and they're going to look at all that data and they're going to look at the video footage of those pit stops that they did. And they're going to see, all right, how could we improve? How could we get better? What changes did we make throughout the process that we may want to implement again in the future? Or maybe we tried this thing that didn't work out.
What happened in that time?
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is really tough for business owners because we're constantly pushing forward, and this forces us to stop and look backwards and review how things went. Meanwhile, I want to be doing the next thing. So I think it's really important that when you let's just summarize. You get really clear on the outcome. You assign the ownership of that outcome. You establish checkpoints to make sure that you're heading in the right direction and that progress is being made. You make sure you're bringing in people that have strengths in what you're trying to do. And then at the end, you stop and say, all right, what worked and what didn't? What do we want to do again that we liked? What do we don't want to do anymore that didn't work out? And I think it would be important when you're establishing these checkpoints to also schedule that time to debrief. That's literally what we're doing today. We're leaving the studio and going back to the office and saying, all right, how'd the last 30 days go? What do we need to review on these things? And what can we fix and what can we change going forward? Which is why it's so important to have the data and have the results, because we need to review what happened and make decisions based on it. And this has been one of my frustrations, as you know, is like, we're still sitting here trying to find the data. We're still trying to figure out the stuff that we actually need, as opposed to saying, oh, it worked and that's great. Let's go do more of that, or let's go do that again. So that was it. Those are my 5 rules. That was a lot.
Yeah. And from what it sounds like, and I think a lot of our lessons go back to this, is it really does all start with the hiring, so that you could build the team to be able to delegate.
If we're talking about an employment situation, yeah, for sure. But if it's not hiring, it's vetting your vendors in the same way. Yeah. I mean, absolutely. That's making sure you've got a standard in place and making sure you're clear about what you want. Your standard for hiring an employee or a vendor should be something more than warm body.
What should people be looking for when they're hiring a vendor? Because that is different. It's not like you can have them fill out take tests and fill it. So what should people be? Because I feel like a lot of people have that problem where they are stuck with bad vendors.
Yeah,
it's promise something, and
it's intent and expectations. This goes back to my first semester of law school when we were studying contracts. Like, a good contract spells out the intent and the expectations. I intend to pay you this sum of money. Mm-hmm. In exchange for that, I expect you to do the following things. And honestly, not a lot of people are clear enough about that. Yeah. They just, and I'm guilty of this too sometimes. It's like, oh, all I got to do is swipe my credit card and there's a chance this problem gets solved. Let's go.
Yeah.
Right? But I think stopping to make sure that they've got relevant experience, they've got the tools. This is why, I mean, there's an overall trend in society that people are less trusting right now, right? And this is why social proof has become so important. Okay. The Google reviews, the testimonials, the client case studies, people are looking for that because they are so skeptical. And it turns out that can, when you critically review those types of things, like, that's something that can help you determine whether you've found the right vendor for you. It's harder in an employment situation because a lot of employers don't want to give negative feedback about prior employees because they're worried about getting sued.
Yeah.
Doesn't stop me, but there's a lot of people out there that worry about that. But vendors, it's a lot easier. You can go and look at the reviews and you can look at the work that they've done to make sure that they're a good fit. And we've done this too for newer businesses where we're not so sure, or if it's a startup that we want to try and help, we'll tell them, hey, we want to work with you, but here's our plan. If this goes well for us, it'll go really well for you.
Right.
This was Vida, who I worked with on time management and productivity. Yeah. When I first started working with her, she told me what our revenue goal was for the year. And I had a problem with time management and productivity in my calendar and my priorities and my goals and all of those things. And if I remember correctly, her revenue goal was something like $70,000 for the year. Mm-hmm. And she lives in Finland. Yes. So it was whatever the equivalent of the euro is. And I said, I'll tell you what, if I know what I paid you, and if you fix this problem for me, you will hit that goal, no problem. And I worked with her. And we put the system in place, and it worked. And she did something like $280,000 of revenue that year.
Yeah, way more than her goal was.
Right. So I became the social proof for her to help blow that business up, and then helped her with marketing and sales and things like that. And that was the whole idea. Is like, I got really clear up front. Like, my expectations are high. Now that's a good example. For every one example like that, I got 10 on the other end where I say, hey, this could be a huge opportunity for you. I am a person of influence. I am a person whose opinion is valued on certain things, not on others. And then this is one of those areas that if you do a good job, like this can really go well for you. And then they still go out and drop the ball.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, that happens in the employment situation too. Hey, if you can come in and get through this thing, this phase, this season, here's how great it's going to be after that.
Yeah.
And I don't know, people aren't willing to do it, or they're not smart enough to understand that there's a real opportunity there, or they just don't care enough, and they're going to blame me for all of their problems regardless of what they do. So yeah, we see that more often than we see the other side of things. So yeah, go ahead.
Delegation done right then.
Yes.
So you've gotten past the things that stop you of not knowing how to do it or the fear of doing it. So what does that allow if it's done right for, what does that look like? What does that look like for a business owner? What does that look like for the team? When someone's like, how do I even know if I'm doing it right? It doesn't feel like I'm doing it right. Maybe I am, but what is this? If I'm delegating tasks right, what's the end outcome?
That you're accomplishing your goals. I mean, that's it. You're getting there faster and better than if you had done it on your own. So the business is successful. I'm not committing all of my time to it, and we're having an impact, right? Like that's what I'm aiming for, right? I want to be able to do personally. I mean, as the owner of the business, and you know we talk about this a lot. I don't want to be there just to create a crappy job for myself, which is what most business owners do. I want to be there so that I can be the CEO of this business, and I can worry about the vision and the culture and the numbers and the people. I don't want to worry about what color Post-it notes we have in the office, right? And I want to make sure that I'm able to spend my time the way that I want to spend it. So the fact that I'm able today to spend just about all day in a meeting with you talking about marketing results and plans, the alternative is I could spend all day talking with clients and vendors.
Yeah.
Right. We had our new chairs show up yesterday for the conference room, and one of them is ripped.
Oh.
And I kind of got upset about that because there's a lot of things going on recently where it's like I got 90% of what I asked for. Yeah. Right. So I kind of got upset, and Chrissy's like, "Bro, I already handled it. Like they're gonna send us a replacement. Drink some water and take a deep breath." All right, thanks, Chrissy.
You know, though, that she knew. Do you know what I mean? Like she knew that was something that needed to be handled and take care of and be
You know what's interesting too, though, is she may or may not know how much money we spent on those chairs, but she does know that our old chairs were below our standard.
Yes.
They were old and they were falling
ready
apart
to go
in our conference room. And I'd be willing to bet that the vast majority of people out there, when those chairs showed up and there was a tiny little rip in one of the seats, they would have just put that chair at the back of the table and hope nobody noticed it.
Yeah.
Right? It's good enough. It's close enough. And that's part of why delegating works in our business, is because people understand that I have a standard. That is not good enough.
See, that's how I know. And that's for me, like, that's how I would know that it's working, that it comes to the point where the people that you have on the team, that they already know when something's coming up or something needs to be done. So the next time it comes time to order chairs or whatever, like that person that did it, they already know this is my responsibility. This is what I'm going to do. And this is what the standards are around doing it. And I think the more times you keep delegating things and talking about the expectations and setting the criteria for it, it becomes a habit and a known thing. Now I know we had when we checked in with the 30-day sprint, that was a fail on our end, but then you set really clear expectations of when we checked in again, what had to be done, what needed to be done, what this had to look like. Knowing that now, the next time there's a 30-day sprint, we know when you're checking in what needs to be brought to the table. So I think that's how you know it's successful, is each time you're delegating something, it's not just 90%.
Yeah, and that makes my life easier as the business owner. But I think it also makes your job better.
Yeah.
That you know exactly where you need to be heading with this.
Yeah.
There's no confusion about what you're supposed to be doing or what you're supposed to be accomplishing. And I think another problem that we see in a lot of businesses, especially ones that aren't profitable, is everybody's really busy, but nobody's really productive. So it's like, I'm working really hard, I'm doing all these things, and it's like, yeah, but you're not getting the things done that actually need to get done to make this business sustainable. So I think that the clarity there on the outcome is why it's so important. So I did have a couple of like just maybe reflection points on this for people to think about, because we talked about at the beginning, you know, why people don't delegate and some of the things that hold them back. So One question is, what's one thing you're holding on to with white-knuckled intensity right now?
Ooh.
Like, think about that one thing that you're just unwilling or unable to let go. And let me give you some guidance on this. I believe as a business owner, probably the last two things you should let go are your numbers and your marketing. Everything else can come before. Those are the last two things you should probably hold on to. But if you are, for example, the only salesperson in your business, it's probably based on fear. It's probably based on the fact that someone else can't do this as well as I can. And I think it was Jack Welch. It was Jack Welch. He said, if someone can do it 70% as well as you, delegate it. That last 30% is learnable. So if you're worried about, I can't have somebody else do sales because, if the business doesn't have sales, we're not gonna survive. But the reality is, until you can stop doing sales in your business, you have no freedom. The business is reliant on you actually doing those sales. But reviewing the numbers, that I wouldn't delegate that, because that's the lifeblood of the business.
That's how you're still the guy in the pit that's making sure that everything's going down.
There you go. You got it.
Yep.
Yeah, and then the marketing, which I think marketing relates to recruiting as well. Like your brand message and what you're about and the problems that you solve, that's like the heart of your business. So you don't want to let those things go. Okay. Second question. Who on your team could take that on with the right direction? So this answers the question. So I know what the thing is that needs to get done. So the question is, who could actually handle this if I gave them the right direction on it, so that I can go focus on activities that are more valuable or activities that I'm more interested in doing. This is one. If Jackie's listening, this is gonna hit home for her. Are you training champions or collecting minions?
I love that. I've heard her say that too. Yes.
Yeah. And all I can think about is Penny's stuffed animal collection. She has a collection of minions. But there was a long time in our business that I was collecting minions. I was collecting helpers. I wasn't hiring replacements. I wasn't hiring I wasn't hiring people that actually can do things better than I can. And I think this is like an ego thing for business owners, that they're afraid to hire someone who's better than them at things.
Oh.
That's a scary thought. I'm dealing with that right now, and I talked about this on Joel's show yesterday, that I need to focus right now on becoming a better leader and manager, because it is necessary to build the team that I want to build to get where we want to get. Like I'm very focused on that, and that's a scary thought. That's a very easy opportunity for me to say, you know what, things are good enough right now, and I'm just going to stay comfortable right where I am.
The danger zone.
Yeah. So I want to build a team that forces me to get better. And the reality is, just the desire to build a better team forces me, before I have that team, to become a better leader. Whew. Cart and the horse there.
Yeah.
Okay. So are you training champions or collecting minions? Last one. Oh man, we do this one all the time. If your business doubled overnight, what would break first?
Oh, geez.
And this is often something that you're not delegating. It's often you're the bottleneck as the business owner, and it's that one thing that you're not getting rid of or letting go of. And if it doubled overnight, what would break? And we do this pretty frequently. You know, if our sales doubled, well, then we need more team. That's the thing that would break. Well, now we build up the team. So what's the next thing? Well, we got to get better at tracking the metrics. And what's the next thing after that? Well, then let's get back to marketing so we can double the business again. That process, that question of if your business doubled overnight, what would break first? I would encourage you to do that at least quarterly.
To see where you're at, to see if it's changed from what you did.
Yeah.
Because is it true that sounds, well, and I know that is something that goes back and forth. It's going to be this at one point, it's going to be this at the other point.
Yeah.
And it's never like a, I don't know. I feel like it's always ping pong.
You're never running on all cylinders, working perfectly well. Yeah, it just doesn't work like that. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. That was there was a lot in that show. There was a lot of. I hope people were taking notes on this one, and of course, share the show if you got a lot out of this. But let's get back to multiplying your impact and multiplying your effectiveness by truly delegating without disaster. And all you have to do is follow everything that we talked about on today's show.
And then share it with your friends.
Are you excited to get back to work now?
Yeah.
Me too. All right. Have a great week, everybody. I believe in you.